It started out as the show that I wanted to listen to at that time. It's like, how did you actually build this thing? How did you come up with the idea? How did you get your first customers? How did you grow this thing? And it was that curiosity that drove the show in the early days. And I found I really enjoyed doing the show and the creative constraint of coming up with some new content, new radio every week. I think I finally got up the nerve to put podcaster on the second kid. And it's probably like 5 years, 6 years deep into the show.
Want to attract and convert more leads? Want to learn how digital PR, branding, and SEO can establish and build your brand identity? Welcome to the Market Movers Building Brands and Links with Linkify podcast. We answer these questions and help you ramp up your brand visibility and credibility. Let's cut through the noise and make your business the talk of the town. We're your hosts, Nick and Chris. Let's get this show on the road.
Welcome to the Market Movers podcast. Today, I am really excited to be joined by Nick Loper, founder of Side Hustle Nation and host of the Side Hustle Show. I was privileged enough to be a guest on his show, and now I'm excited to turn the tables and dig deep into how Nick helps people earn their first $1,000 and beyond. Welcome to the show, Nick.
Love it. Thanks for having me.
Nick, it's awesome to have you on. I've been listening to your show forever. You're almost 700 episodes. Tell us how you started this podcast, how you've gotten it to 700 episodes.
I think that makes me a dinosaur in the age of in the world of podcasting. It started out as the show that I wanted to listen to at that time. Don't give me the mindset, don't give me the theory, give me the tactics. Like, how did you actually build this thing? How did you come up with the idea? How did you get your first customers? How did you grow this thing? And it was that curiosity that drove the show in the early days and still drives it today. Early on, it was, you zoom out on the download chart and it's like, it's so close to the x-axis. It's like, relatively speaking, nobody is listening to this in the early days, but there was just enough traction and interaction to keep going. And I found I really enjoyed doing the show and the creative constraint of coming up with some new content, new radio every week. And it just slowly but surely kind of became a part of the identity, because along the way, I think it was like maybe when my second kid was born, they want, parents' occupation on the birth certificate. I think I finally got up the nerve to put podcaster on the second kid. And it's probably like 5 years, 6 years deep into the show.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'm a big fan as well. Nick is always slacking me if he's heard an episode or he's heard an idea that's resonated with him. He loves the stuff that's like offline as well. Some of the more wacky and, interesting things. So I think my first question is, what is one of the most bizarre or interesting side hustles that you've heard on the show?
Well, this is where the show gets dangerous for me as like entrepreneur shiny object syndrome, and that's the mark of a good episode, where I hang up the call being like, well, how come I don't have a laundromat? Or how come I don't have a bunch of vending machines? Or why? Shoot, that's a good idea. I could totally go do that. A couple that come to mind. One really fun example was Devin Ricks. She's a mom in Utah, and her business is teaching video game classes online. Like, come hang out with me and we'll beat this Zelda level together, or we'll play Minecraft together. And we first recorded, she was doing like $4,000 a month, and it was just herself. And she's like, this is awesome. I'm doing like 20 hours a week, having a lot of fun with these kids. And when we reconnected, she was over six figures. She had like a team of video game teachers underneath. She built this whole like agency out. I was like, wow, that's a really interesting one. And then I get a kick out of the kind of, under the category of unconventional rental businesses, where we had a high school teacher in New York who was renting out portable hot tubs. And I was like, well, how many of these things do you have? First of all, and he's like, I probably have 25 of them, or something, like a fleet of 25 of these things. Like, where do you keep them all? Like, is this in the side yard of your house? Like, they don't like deflate. They're like made of hard foam. And he's like, they're like rented out. Like, I only have one or two sitting around at a time. And just deliver them in the back of a pickup truck, set them up, come pick them up a week later. Really blew up during COVID, when people were like, you're telling me for $250 you can bring a hot tub to my house and I can send the kids out there? And he was doing a great business then, but has continued to do well. And I think he's expanded into some portable saunas and stuff like that too.
Nice.
That's a pretty cool one. There's been so many that I've seen. I'm like, oh, I've got to listen to this. And then I listen to it and I ping Chris and I'm like,
we're starting a poop scooping business, man. Like,
Yes,
I've
yes.
seen the numbers. This looks so great. So what are some of the like most lucrative ones? Because you've got everything from this is earning a couple $100 a month to this guy's making $1 million a year. Like, what are the ones that really stand out as far as big income earners?
Yeah, the most profitable one that comes to mind is Ryan Golgoski runs this service called 180sites.com. And I think that was maybe his original pricing, $180 per month to design, manage, host, and handle any maintenance updates for your website. And the interesting thing was he started out, I think his niche was power washing companies. Like, I'll be the go-to website builder for if you want to start a pressure washing business, I'm your guy. And when we recorded, he, I think, had just had his first $100,000 month. And so the positioning was unique. Instead of charging a few $1,000s up front to design this website, it's like, no, well, why don't we just flip it on its head? We'll say it's just a couple $100 a month. I think he had a 2-year term and then maybe a reduced price for, ongoing maintenance beyond that. But it was like the break even on the production cost was like 1 or 2 months. And the remaining 22 months of this term was all gravy. And it's like, after you do a handful of these, you got the templates in place. It's like, you build these economies of scale. And I imagine the margins were really, really strong in that kind of business. Plus, yeah, the timing of cash flows, like recurring revenue built in.
Yeah, that's awesome. I kind of want to ask, have you ever been, has anyone ever applied or you've been approached and it's been too, maybe not illegal, but it's been something that you haven't been able to cover, even though it's a cool side hustle? Has that ever come across your desk?
Too illegal.
Not necessarily illegal, but maybe just like not something that could air, but it was interesting.
Yeah, the one that comes to mind is probably like the sports betting arbitrage.
Okay.
Where there's dozens and dozens of different sports books, and they'll have like some gaps in how they're favoriting the games or paying out the games. It's like, well, if I get bet both sides of it and like guaranteed a margin, it's like, I don't fully understand how this works. In my understanding, they're trying to like crack down on people doing this type of arbitrage play where, I'm going to bet on the Seahawks to win, or I'm going to bet on the Saints to win, but they're playing the same game, but like depending on the edge, it's like, okay. So that's one that we haven't done an episode on, even though it is kind of interesting. And it's like, if you could do that, have some, and then there's a bunch of software tools that will go out and try and find those little arbitrage gaps. But that's an interesting one. What's really interesting is sometimes it'll come across the desk and be like, that's so niche. Like who like the example that comes to mind is like the mobile notary loan signing service, which is like, if you close on a house, send somebody, like the escrow company sends somebody like to watch you sign this like giant stack of paperwork, sign your life away. But like that person gets paid $150 or something for that appointment. And so we did this episode on like how to do that as a side hustle, how to get your notary commission. It's like, this is like getting paid to watch ink dry. Like it sounds pretty dry, pretty boring. But people like still today, like people come up to me at conferences and they're like, oh, I did that for a while. My wife did that for a while. We were making such good money during the refi boom. And it was like, to think it almost never aired.
Yeah.
But sometimes the most random ones that they get people nodding along and be like, oh, it's like the novelty factor. Like, I didn't know that was a thing. I can go do that.
I think it also sounds like anyone could do it. If you're thinking about some of these things, you're like, it costs a lot of money to test it out. I got to go buy all these hot tubs or saunas. Then I've got to drive around. That one, it just feels like anyone could test it out. Maybe what are some other ones that fit that category that have just been really popular because almost anyone can go out and start them and do well with them?
Yeah, those are the ones that can check those boxes of low perceived skills required, low barrier to entry, low startup costs. Like those are the ones that tend to do well. And it could be, for a while, it was stuff in the online business world was at least perceived to be that way. Well, you have some level of expertise in pickleball or yoga or craft brewing, and like, why don't you spin up a content business around that? And you start a YouTube channel and stuff. It's like, as you guys know, there's a lot of skills that you got to learn around domains and SEO and structure and storytelling and everything else. But there was a certain perception around that, and that has kind of been eroded away by AI a little bit. But especially in the local service type of business space, you mentioned the pooper scooper example, but the window washing or the house cleaning, and especially kind of the house cleaning agency type of business is attractive to a lot of people. It's like, I don't necessarily need to be scrubbing toilets myself, or I don't want to see myself doing that long term. But if there's this role to play, marketer, administrator, and matchmaker, if I can connect customers with people who already are looking to fill their schedule with more house cleaning work, we've seen some people do well in that type of arena too, and that can work online or offline.
I tell you what, I think the word entrepreneur can seem like a loaded term, but what I love about your show is you curate human personality in a way, and you see these endeavors that people, these niches, these ways to express themselves where they can actually start making money, and it turns from way more, or it can turn from way more than a side hustle and become not just a business, but like it can be life changing for these people. So do you think there's a commonality or a thread to the personalities of the people that you've had on that have started these interesting businesses?
I mean, the most common thread is this willingness to take that first step, that willingness to stick your neck out and say, I'm going to give this a shot. I don't necessarily know steps 2 through 10, but I'm comfortable enough with step 1 to give it a shot. And kind of adopting this experimenter's mindset of, I'm going to, here's my hypothesis. I'm going to put it out into the world and see what kind of reaction it gets. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. Not reflecting that on myself as I'm an abject failure. Nothing's ever going to work, but saying, okay, that one didn't work. What's next on the list? And that kind of mentality has really proven to be a common thread amongst the almost 700 guests.
Yeah. It's usually people who they just don't want to work for someone else as well. Like they're willing to go try all these things, figure it out because they want to work for themselves. And that's more important than whatever the side hustle is, I think.
Yeah. We had this was an affiliate website example where it was 9 months before the first commission came through on this website. I was like, what kept you going during that time? And his response was, I was afraid to stay where I was. I think you're exactly right with this. There's got to be a better way. I got to build my own corporate ladder or build a ladder to somewhere that I want to go instead of climbing this other thing. I had another guest. He was doing an Amazon FBA business. It's $3,000 or something worth of initial inventory, which is probably on the low end for an e-commerce business, but still it's like, weren't you nervous making that initial order to some factory in China? He's like, of course I was nervous. That's a lot of money, but at a certain point you got to do something or tomorrow is going to look like today. And that line, if I don't do anything, tomorrow is going to look like today. And that didn't sit well with him. So that has stuck with me.
I think it's the motivation as well, because so many of us have these little ideas where we think that would be a good business. And if you can listen to a show like the Side Hustle Show and be inspired by people that have taken that leap, then it can give you the confidence to give it a go yourself. Have you seen a progression over the years or a common thread to the types of side hustles that people are doing? Has there been a change over the years, or is it still just sort of anything
Trends.
and everything? Yeah.
There's been some serious trends, right? There was you mentioned Amazon FBA, there was blogging. Then it's going back to home service, things that are offline, and now AI. What are the big trends you're seeing now?
Yeah, we've seen a bunch of different shifts in the decade plus of the show, where it was very Amazon for a long time was at the center of a lot of different side hustles, between their affiliate program and product review niche site type of things, to the Kindle publishing boom, which is now there's a resurgence in low content publishing and AI powered publishing, and then the FBA, the private label world. And then, merch by Amazon, print on demand had its moment in the sun there. The Amazon influencer program had its, and it's still a viable thing. They still pay me every month for my little product review videos and stuff. So Amazon has definitely been at the center of a lot of things. Then what's interesting recently is this shift, this pullback to, well, what's more AI resistant or AI proof? And you go to the local home services, or the plumber is not worried about getting outsourced to ChatGPT anytime soon. The guy washing your windows, the guy cleaning your car. And so there's this, on the one hand, some opportunity afforded by different AI tools. I can accelerate my workflows. I can do more technical things than I ever could before. And maybe that's an improvement if I'm using those as a hammer. But at the same time, a big chunk of the business has been wiped out by AI snippets and AI summaries. But then there's this whole other side of it where it's how do we ignore this entirely and just do something real life in person, help people solve a problem?
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's a real good way of looking at it, because so many people are jumping on the AI hype train, and there is so much can be done. We'll get to AI in a minute, because I'm sure you've got some interesting thoughts on that. But the home service and actually helping people and doing something real really resonates. What's the most lucrative side hustle over the past decade that you've seen? Has anybody are they now living in a $100 million mansion? Like, how big have you seen a side hustle get?
My gosh, probably some of those FBA businesses that sold at the right time to the aggregator companies, like the private equity roll-ups. Oh, we're going to buy this at a 5x multiple because we know we can raise capital at a 10x multiple. It's like, okay, that's great. And sometimes it was, only 12 to 18 months from idea to exit on some of these businesses. Most people kind of start in that service-based arena, whether it's freelancing, consulting, agency model. And then sometimes they, almost graduate, or they level up, or they pivot into some product or some service or some software. And so there's some different ways to go about that, but there's definitely been a few. I can scroll through my list of people who have gotten fabulously wealthy on the back of their side hustles. We don't tend to play a ton in that space of, 8-figure exits and stuff. It's more like lifestyle businesses, but some people have done really well. We had a fun one where there was a guy who started a backyard nursery business, just growing and selling plants like on Facebook Marketplace and stuff. What was really interesting about him is was the side hustle on top of the side hustle? He's like, I started filming myself talking about my irrigation system, or which plants are the best to grow in this climate. What pots do you use? And it's like, all of a sudden the YouTube channel, had outpaced the plant sales and was, primed to grow so much more. So it's kind of fun, the documentation process, or the working in public process too.
Yeah.
It's a good place to be in as well. All right, Nick. So you're interviewing people, you're hearing about all these crazy side hustles. You're getting probably the inside scoop a little bit as well. How do you decide which ones you're going to jump into? Which ones are you working on now?
I admit to be a little bit of a slacker lately, where in the early days of the business and the show, that was very much the hypothesis. Let me be the guinea pig. I'll test these things out. So we had a guy early on who was selling on Fiverr, and his claim to fame: I earned enough money on Fiverr to buy a house in my first year. It's like, really? What could you possibly be selling for $5? He's like, Nick. It's all about the upsells, maybe. And I was like, okay, it's interesting. But started doing that, started doing some eBay stuff, started doing some Amazon FBA clearance arbitrage, was doing freelance writing, freelance editing, trying to do all of the different things and report back on the results. But the time, because it would take months or a year to get enough data to feel like you've really given it a try to be able to report back on the results. And so that shifted pretty quickly into just pointing the mic at somebody else and trying to be a hub or a resource database of other people sharing their stories. Lately, the Amazon FBA is the Amazon influencer program is probably the latest one that I've tried with any level of seriousness. I uploaded 50-ish videos a year or two ago, and still make some passive income from that. Try to dive deeper into the YouTube channel creation, content creation for the side hustle brand. And so we'll see where it goes from there. But yeah, definitely looking at vending machines and getting the kids involved in certain businesses going forward.
Yeah, I was going to say, some of those ideas, like the vending machine ones, the poop scoop, have my personality. If I heard a show and I could chat to the guy after for a bit and have him on email, I'd find it so hard not to just be diving headfirst into everything that sounded amazing. Do you have that? Do you suffer from shiny object syndrome, or are you able to sort of just curate this great show and try what you really want to try?
It's dangerous, 100%. We had a guy who had a billboard business in Arkansas where he bought up billboards and then sold the advertising. It was this combination of a media business and a real estate business. And then, for the next 2 months, every time I'm driving around town, it's like, hey, I never noticed that billboard before. I wonder who owns that. Yeah. It's and a couple of them are the big media brands, but oh, dang, how come I don't own a billboard?
All right. So what ideas what's out there that you're thinking, if I had the time, I'd go do this? Yesterday, I was listening to a podcast and I heard about this lady who, she does porch pumpkin decorating.
This is huge.
Cleared over $1 million last year in 3 months. And so I'm already thinking oh man, I wish if I live in Portugal actually, so it's not a thing here, but okay. I've already been okay, well, that's for the best.
Maybe you could bring it. Yeah, bring it to Portugal.
Fewer porches though, more buildings.
Okay.
Yeah. it'd be lobby decorations. But I'm curious, like, what are the things that you've seen? You're like, oh, if I had the time, like, this is a good opportunity. This could be, maybe it's a short window, but this could be a real moneymaker.
Yeah, one, I'm into like the directory style websites. They seem to be more AI resistant or AI proof. We had Frey Chu on recently talking about building what he called near me directories, like trying to level up what's already available on Google Maps with some kind of value added data and content. And it was doing really well with that. So I think that checks the box of location independent, time leveraged, scalable. You can build it out in a few different niches, relatively passive or time leveraged once it's going. So that is one that's exciting to me. And then all things, AI agent building, automation, vibe coding, like all this. It's such a fascinating world that I just, by the time the kids are in bed and I have the time to like really look at it, like the motivation is gone, and it's like, well, okay, I'll look at it the next day. So that's one that is definitely on my short list. And even just starting for our own internal processes, to like, can we automate this? Can we, I want to build like a listener, like almost a listening bot, to curate the best side hustle stories every week. Like, could you go out to Reddit? Could you go out to these 100 different sources and just like filter, and summarize? Like, I'm confident there's a way to do it, but it's just a matter of sitting down and building it out.
Yeah, I've lost whole weekends from vibe coding. I think it's a dangerous game, but it's a lot of fun, and it does feel like the possibilities are insane. I think one of the early sort of online side hustles, or certainly the thing that got me into the online world was like these mom blog income reports that you used to see. And obviously that's died now. That's not like possible, but the allure of that, for someone to stay at home and for very little upfront cost, for maybe some cheap hosting and a bit of time, you could write some articles and throw up some ads and affiliate links and maybe start making not job replacement income, but definitely like good side hustle income. Now that's gone. Where do you see the best opportunity for side hustles for people that want to do it alongside their job on the online world and offline?
In the online world, there's just a shift to everything toward video. So, if you enjoy the process of creating content, YouTube long form, I think, has a really long shelf life. I mean, some of the videos that I posted 4, 5, 10 years ago, like, still get views, still earn revenue. If it kind of satisfies that question and answer search query, like how to fill in the blank type of content, that does really well. What's cool about YouTube is, the followers don't really matter. It is similar on all platforms now, where it's like if the content can hit, you can punch above your weight class in terms of the algorithm will push it out to a different audience. We had another really interesting episode on the short form video creation side, and it was becoming a UGC creator, where, this woman was getting paid $200, $300, $1,000 per video in some cases to make these, short, hooky videos for brands. And they didn't even care about her following. It wasn't about her promoting to her audience. It was like, we want this content for our own social media channels so we can reuse those for paid ads and just to fill up this, this insatiable every day is another day, need for content. And I thought that was a really, really interesting
like
side hustle. It's basically like a paid spokesperson for different brands. And she was doing really well with that. And then, started off as, hire me for 3 videos, and then kind of shifted to, just have me on retainer for $5,000 a month or so, and get 2 or 3 of those brand contracts, and now you're doing really well for making these little 45-second videos. So if that's a skill that you're interested in, or you can learn from watching what works, what doesn't, in your own feed, I think that's a really powerful way to go in the online world. And in the offline world, it's like, consignment sales, helping your neighbors clear out clutter. I've always said, like, if I were to start a business completely from scratch, it would probably be power washing, just because you go buy the machine for $300-$400, recoup that on your very first job. There's some level of natural, local virality, where if your neighbor sees the driveway getting done, they're probably like, hey, would you mind come giving me a quote afterwards? Or, you got anything lined up after this? Come over, do my driveway next. And it's just satisfying work too. I enjoy doing it. So
Nick,
there's an element of that.
I was the first person on my street to hire the window cleaner that came round. It's a new build development. I was the first one, right? And he came
Yeah.
6 weeks later, he came again. And he came again 6 weeks later. And now there's 4 more people on the street that are getting their windows cleaned. So I was like, come on, guys. But I mean, he's always happy. That is a great business, especially if you get locked down enough houses in an area. Great job, great business.
Yeah. Sometimes it doesn't take, a multi-million-dollar venture scale type of business to build a great lifestyle.
I've always liked that. Well, not always. We work online, so my thought has been reinvest into things that won't be affected by AI. I like the home service stuff. I have a background in that anyway, so that's always appealed to me. But I think there's just, if you're good with business, just dealing with people, can do like the basic things, you'll do well in a lot of these spaces. Like it can be really hard to get a contractor out or someone in the home services space. Someone who can just like be on top of the communication will absolutely crush it. Like your window cleaner, Chris, a lot of people, like, that's something you can schedule once a month, every other month. The businesses who are, I think, put a process in place, like asking the customer the simple things like, should I go ahead and book next month? There's just a lot you can do well, I think, in that space, and there's a lot of opportunities. I think that's where I'd go.
The bar is pretty low.
Yeah.
You look at some of the, a friend of mine who started one of those remote cleaning agencies. He was like looking at the Yelp reviews for the existing cleaning services. He said, nobody complained about the cleaning. They complained about, I couldn't get a hold of anybody. It took forever to get a quote, or I didn't know when they were going to come. And he's like, I could be the better administrator. Like I'll pick up the phone when you call me. Like this is not that difficult. But it was the bar is pretty low for a lot of these existing, and part of that is a factor of the existing supply. Like they're not hungry for business. Like if they've been doing it for a while, they're good, they're happy. But if you're coming in young and hungry, and the pie just keeps getting bigger, it's not necessarily you even have to conquest market share from somebody else. It's just more and more people are outsourcing those types of things versus doing it themselves.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. I used to have a fish and chip shop, if you remember from our episode, and we used to have one of these big commercial bins that would, get pretty whiffy. And these, jet wash bin cleaner guys came round. They said, do you want us to do your bin? We'll do it every week, 25 quid. I said, yep, 100%. Need it doing. Perfect. Not much money. They didn't come. They said, we'll come next Thursday. They didn't come. He left his card. I rang him. He said, we're on holiday. I rang him again the week later and said, are you coming this week? He said, yeah, we'll come. They didn't come. I rang them again the next week. They said, we're not doing your area anymore. They didn't need it. They didn't want it. I had my money to give them. So if you can identify that sort of, lackluster operation in your town, then you could just crush it by just being like a bit better.
Yeah, go find those 3-star reviews. I like to look on the side of trucks and vans, and it's like, it's a mobile bike repair service, or it's a mobile pet grooming service. It's some ideas you never would have thought of, but you just by paying attention to what's on the side of different trucks around town.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so I think we have to talk a little bit about AI. I haven't seen that many AI episodes on your show. What are you seeing as far as the side hustle goes? A lot of the AI maybe is maybe more limited to people who have certain tech skills. But what are you seeing as far as side hustles in AI goes?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of people integrate it into their existing process flow, especially for content creation. We've done a couple on vibe coding, and I use this to build an app, and then I built up some level of recurring revenue, and then I sold the thing. It was like all in the span of a year or 18 months. It was like, well, that's kind of cool. You didn't even need a technical co-founder for this. For my own use case, what I'm trying to do is build an editor, like a first round of podcast editor suggestions, where it's like I'd uploaded a bunch of before and after transcripts. Here's what we kept, here's what we cut, and trying to train Claude in this case on, could you take the first pass at this episode? I'd like to trim the bottom 10% of where it went off the rails, where it got boring, where, a question just didn't land. Trying to build something like that. I'm using a little bit for video production on pulling in like relevant stock footage and B-roll, where you upload a transcript and it like pulls in different scenes and stuff. Is really cool. And just playing around with it. I try to integrate it more and more, but I know I'm just scratching the surface.
I think there could be like a window of opportunity to, if you move fast. Like recently there was the guy who like completely coded out the DocuSign, as complete, just made it like a couple of dollars compared to whatever DocuSign's like recurring is. I think there was some issues with stuff like legal issues and security issues. But I think if you can find something that's less sort of problematic, then there is definitely opportunity now to jump in. We had one guy on ours recently. I think he's exited like 5 or 6 apps now in the past 6 months, and he's just taken very small features from like larger softwares that he just thinks are useful. So I think that's really interesting. Maybe you'll have some on your show in the coming weeks and months. People that find that niche that they can code out quickly with these LLM coders.
Yeah, some level of unbundling of a major tool.
Side Hustle Show isn't a side hustle for you anymore. How much longer can we hope that you will be producing the show? No plans to stop, I hope.
No plans to stop. That's always like, is there another 700 episodes in the tank here? I don't know, but it's still fun. I still get a kick out of doing it. And I don't think I ever anticipated doing it for 12 years starting out, but it kind of became its own thing, and to be able to make a living doing it is really, really gratifying.
Beauty of it is there's always going to be new side hustles. There'll always be new things to cover. And that's good news for us. This has been so much fun geeking out over Side Hustle Nation. It's been just a huge part of my life for the last couple of years.
Thanks so much for tuning in.
Nick, if people want to hunt you down, obviously there's the podcast, but where else can they find you? Any places that you could direct them to give them support or ideas in the side hustle space?
Most active social media is probably the Side Hustle Nation Facebook group, is sidehustlenation.com/FB. I think we'll redirect you over there. But yeah, I would love to have you tune into the show and put a little hustle into your earbuds.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, Nick.
Cheers.
Thanks. Bye.